Well, that was an ugly one for the Cleveland Cavaliers, particularly towards the end as they fall to the Clippers tonight by a final score of 132-119. Not the result anybody was hoping for as they start their West Coast trip. And Spence, plenty to talk about. We stayed up late for this one. We want to make sure we had this conversation. We appreciate those of you who are staying up late with us. You can always count on us. That's the best way we can put it. We'll be doing this all throughout the next couple weeks here when they're on the West Coast. But yeah, Spence, I think maybe a good way to sum this one up and just kind of overarching here to start the conversation is, and it's something that we've hit on, like the Cavs are so good that they're going to get everybody's best shot on every given night. And the Clippers are a team that I think are probably a little bit slept on because of where they are on the standings, but they have some talent on that team. They're really good. Kawhi Leonard was brilliant tonight. And they were making everything. Like you talk about getting the team's best shot. I thought they got the absolute best shot you could from the Clippers tonight, and they tried to weather the storm the best they could, but the Clippers were just a little bit too much.
Yeah, and then they obviously went cold. I think when they started sending them to the free throw line, that's really when things got out of hand. And then on the opposite end too, the Cavs just could not make a free throw to save their life, which
Yeah.
obviously could kind of stave some momentum. So when you're cold, you're sending the other team to the line and you're not making yours at the stripe. That pretty much doesn't go in your favor. And we've got a lot of different elements of this game, I think, to talk about, but just flat out, Kawhi Leonard looked like his self. Kawhi Leonard
Yeah.
looked like healthy Kawhi, getting to his spots, making some really tough shots. And then, you got to give it a lot of credit too to the Clipper bench. Like Bogi Bogdanovic was just fantastic. He had 20 points on 8 of 8 from the field, dished out 7 dimes. He's been a really big part of that resurgence there in LA. And then Ben Simmons too, defensively, I thought was outstanding in his little time he played, 13 minutes or so. So I think that you start there. And I think this one just came down to the physicality at the end. And Zubats was literally powering through everybody. It started with him on the baseline, getting to his left and then to the hook shot. But then overall, just the offensive rebounds, the entire boards battle was completely won by the Clippers tonight. And I think securing the possessions and winning the possession battle, something that Kenny Atkinson says that the Cavs need to do every game, they did not do that tonight.
Yeah, the Cavs got out rebounded by 20. It was the discrepancy was 49-29,
Yeah.
which is uncharacteristic for Cleveland, but also, not something you want to see. And you brought it up, like Kenny emphasizes that. How much of a concern is something like that for you, for this Cavaliers team, that they were out physical that much on the boards by this Clippers team?
I'm not going to say it's not a concern, but I'm also kind of keeping in mind that this game meant a lot to the Clippers in terms of the standings. So they obviously came out and gave them their best shot. Like that was a big point of emphasis, I'm sure, for them. And the Cavs not coasting at all, of course. They put up 42 in the first quarter. The first half was one of the most amazing shot making displays I think
Yeah.
I've ever watched between two teams. Both of them, the Cavs were 57% at half, and the Clippers were 51%. And there were just a few moments where it didn't look as if either team was slowing down, and then the Clippers kind of got to their pace. I think that really kind of put the Cavs in a tough position. And, again, got to give them a lot of credit. But the Cavs definitely could have done some more in this situation. And, they went cold at the wrong time. I'll say that. But they did have quite a few floaters that went in and out. They had a lot of guys missing some threes. There was a little bit ISO heavy at the end. But the ball movement I thought was better tonight. And I think that Donovan was awesome at setting people up and getting into the paint and spraying out. DeAndre Hunter was a perfect 6 for 6 going into halftime. I think the foul trouble also played a little bit into DeAndre not being as in rhythm in that fourth quarter. So, but yeah, again, like I thought this was just a display of Zubats taking over at the end, really kind of wearing them down, and then Kawhi just, even when there's a hand in his face, it was just really, really tough to get him to stop.
Certainly looked like vintage Kawhi. I alluded to that obviously earlier as well. And yeah, that's kind of been the story of the Clippers the last couple of years. It's like when Kawhi's healthy, they can probably beat anybody in this league. But when he's like, it's about getting him healthy. And so tonight he looked like that guy, but in other games he doesn't. You talk about maybe things that could be alarming or concerning for this team. I guess how concerning is it at this point in terms of the way that Donovan Mitchell is playing, because it just seems like something's kind of off for him. We know he missed some time due to injury, and he was sitting out a couple games, and you thought maybe some of it on Sunday was just like kind of getting his feet back underneath him a little bit, but now it's 2 games in a row where he hasn't played particularly well. 27% from the floor he was tonight. He was 22% from 3. And like you said, he found other ways to contribute. 11 assists tonight for him. But is that something that is concerning to you at all? And I guess how much, what do you sort of attribute that to at this point? And is that something that you're worried about here coming down the stretch of the season for Donovan?
Well, I think the point of attack defense that the Clippers had, especially in that third quarter towards the end of it, was just superb. Like I said, Ben Simmons was a part of that. I thought that Chris Dunn did some good things for them. They have some really solid defenders on that team. Derek Jones Jr., same thing. Donovan just really couldn't find too many driving areas where he wasn't able to get to the rim, I guess, because he was spraying out a lot when he got to the middle. It was a lot of middle drives, kickouts, and it was working. For him, I just think that there were a couple in and outs tonight on the floaters where the game was down to like 6 or something like that in the fourth, and that didn't work. And I think that he was going to be coming out and bringing his best in the fourth, and he just couldn't get shots to go. I don't like when him and DG get into the ISO mode, which that happened against the Magic, of course. Yeah, I don't think that's going to become a repetitive habit for them. I think that they're going to obviously know what works and get the ball out to the guys who are.
It was evident tonight, though, too, that they kind of sunk back into that mode. You're right about that.
Yeah, and that's just kind of feeling like you have to put the team on your back type of stuff.
Well, nothing you brought it up, like the shots weren't falling. So it kind of felt like they both were jockeying for like, all right, someone's got to take this thing over. Let's just do it this way. And it's like it was like the last ditch effort, right? Like it was like the fallback plan when nothing else is working, because this team's so used to everything else working.
Yeah, no, and that is a good point too. Like, cause you're just used to your role players always making their shots. And obviously Max Strus had a hell of a night. This might've been his best game of the season, to be completely honest. I thought he did a really good job on James Harden. You look at Harden's numbers, he was pretty much his primary defender tonight. But other than Max Strus, you look at the role players, Ty Jerome didn't make a 3. Sam went 1 of 3. Dean Wade didn't take, one of them. Like, so if those guys aren't hitting their shots, then you need your best players to make theirs. And DG and Don just weren't making them at the rate that we know that they can. And again, I have to give a lot of credit to the Clippers defense on that, but also a mentality thing I think also would be helpful there. And Evan, came out and was doing some really good stuff in the third quarter, but he just kind of wasn't aggressive enough, I think, either in the fourth. So that also kind of plays into it, in my opinion.
Yeah, you mentioned Max Strus. Again, brilliant tonight. 8 of 12 from the floor, 66% he shot. He was 5 of 8 from 3, shot 62%. He was really the only person who could consistently knock down threes. DeAndre Hunter did have 3 of them, but he was the one guy you could rely on in that regard on a night where they shot just 34% from 3 altogether as a team. So that wasn't ideal. And I think like this is 2 games in a row that they've obviously lost, but 2 games in a row where the 3-point shooting just hasn't been there, Spence. And it's like this team, I don't want to say it's their identity, but it is, part of what they do. Like they knock down those shots. And so a large part of me is like, that's not going to stay. Like they'll figure this out because they're too good not to, and they'll be okay by the time the playoffs roll around. But yeah, like there's always that old mentality of like, you live by the 3, you die by the 3. And you hope that they snap out of this because, once the playoffs roll around, that is going to be such an important part of their game, especially in a potential series against the Celtics or whoever they could maybe meet in an NBA Finals or whatever. But that is something that's kind of them here of late is just not being able to be as effective from deep these last couple games.
And it's definitely a make or miss league, that's for sure. There's not a whole lot of guys that they can sag off of, though. So that's something that I think is going to be beneficial to the Cavs, is someone's always going to have a body on someone on the perimeter. But obviously, you bring 2 bodies to Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland on a drive, then someone's going to be open. They're going to have to knock the shot down. And, that's what they've been doing all season long. And I have the utmost confidence in almost everybody on this roster to make those shots. You have to be willing to take them as well. I also think too, in the second half, when I mentioned, the pace, I think they got a little bit away from the pick and roll game that was working so well in the first half. They were doing a great job of hunting Harden this entire night, making sure to put him in pick and roll actions and to make sure that he was trying to, get into those actions so that he's not. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that, like, if you screen Harden, it's going to be hard for him to get around screens at this point of his career. So, like, they found an advantage in that situation and they exploited it well. In the second half, I think that the Clippers definitely did a good job defensively of switching things up. And it goes back again to the guys like Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr. and Ben Simmons in the plays that he had. So I think that it's a little bit of both when you say, like, the offense didn't execute the way it did in the first half, but there's also, like, some shot missing in that way. And also, again, the free throws, not making the free throws definitely hurt them.
Something that's popping up in the comments, especially here, and you alluded to it earlier, with how well Zubats played tonight in for the Clippers. But a common theme among our commenters is the idea that the Cavs just aren't really. They're still having issues with the physicality. Like this most recent comment from Le Smooch. He says they didn't lose because of physical. Well, he said they didn't lose because of physicality. Trust me, they lost because they didn't shoot. They didn't make their shots late in the game. But it has been brought up through some of these comments. This from Mongo. He says when the team turns with the physicality, the pace, and the playoff level, they collapse. So there's been a couple others as well. But I guess, Spence, like, how much do you subscribe to the idea that this team still struggles when teams are able to sort of turn up the physicality? Because we know a couple of years ago that was the thing that did them in, right? Like the 5-game gentleman sweep against the Knicks was all about the fact that they just weren't they got out physical and they didn't really know how to adjust to that sort of style of basketball in a series like that. And I think they've worked pretty hard, especially specific players who did get hunted in that series or sort of out physical in that series, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, etc. I think they've worked very hard to dispel some of that and reverse that narrative about them. But I can understand where you watch a game like tonight and you feel that way. I would kind of chalk it up to it's just, it's one game. I don't think we have to like over and I get like maybe it's 2 games because Sunday was a physical game too, because that's how Orlando plays. But I do think like that last comment I obviously put up there from Le Smooch about like, they weren't getting the shots to fall late in the game. I think it was more about that than like the just, being intimidated by the physicality of the game the last 2 games that they lost. I think that's kind of just like a convenient excuse for why they lost these 2 games, because they were 2 physical games. But I don't necessarily think that like that's going to be the thing that does them in per se. But I don't know what your perspective is on it, Spence. But I get what people are saying in terms of how these 2 games have gone. But I don't read into it as like they're still not ready to handle that from teams, because we've seen them also be pretty physical with other teams this year.
I'm not completely against that idea. I definitely have subscribed to the theory that it does affect them, but they can win those games. What I'm saying and what I'm seeing from tonight, you can't have Ivica Zubac go out and get 28 and 20 and your starting front court have 25 points and 11 rebounds. Just can't happen. He out-rebounded and outscored both of them by himself. So yeah, that's not going to cut it. I think that the physicality thing is something that's easy to point to. I still hate that we talk about stuff that happened 2 years ago.
I get it.
But you understand it in the moment. I feel like that's just kind of the itch that everyone wants to scratch when they see a loss. Tonight, that was the case. Has that been the case the entire year? I disagree. I saw them take it to the Thunder at home really well, and at Isaiah Hartenstein, someone that was on the Knicks, who really gave them a ton of problems in that series, and they came out on top. I saw them come back in Boston, another physical team that they've played. They've had to fight through. I thought the Portland game was extremely physical. I know that they're not nearly on the same talent level, but I don't think that that's an overarching problem. I think that was a problem tonight, and I think that it has been a problem here or there. You look at the Atlanta games from earlier in the season, but one of those guys is on your team now. His name is DeAndre Hunter.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's as big of a problem as people might see it as, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And I also think too, and maybe this is an excuse, maybe this is me being, too nice, but Jared Allen has been dealing with the hand injury. He has been dealing with a hand injury. So maybe that played into tonight to as well. And obviously the last, few games, but I mean, to play devil's advocate, he was jamming with his right hand the other day, and he was blocking shots with his right hand the other day. So I don't know, but I don't think that is a killer issue for them. I really don't.
Yeah, like I said, if we had seen more of this throughout the season, this team has 12 losses, right? And just because the last two were more physical games that they lost, I think there's other things to attribute to that more so than just that. And like you said, we've seen them win those types of games. We've seen them blow teams out because they don't necessarily have to play down to another team's style because they can just usually make a lot of shots, and that hasn't happened of late. I think there's a lot of circumstances from tonight's game that factored in, like the physicality being one of them, and I get why people are pointing to that. But we also highlighted earlier, Spence, the Clippers just played really, really damn good. I said a different word, but they just played really damn good. I mean, they shot 45, almost 46% from three. They were 54% from the floor. They just played a near perfect game. And sometimes the Cavs aren't going to have their best every single night. A near perfect game will do most teams in. So you can't fully just, I think, point to one thing and say it's that. I agree.
Yeah, Bogey was outstanding, as Lou Smooch just said here, man. It's his birthday. He has an 8-for-8 game, 20-7 off the bench, 4 boards. And then you look out and you also just, again, go back to Kawhi Leonard. In the first half even, Dean Wade was all up in his grill and he was still making shots. These are things that you can't control with Kawhi. He gets to his spots with the best of them. He's one of the best at the game. This was a lot of ISO stuff too with Kawhi. So you're living with that. Unfortunately, Kawhi is one of the better ISO players in the game. Same with James Harden. James Harden, he got Evan Mobley in a spin cycle tonight on one of those plays. And James didn't have the great night from the field, but he got his teammates involved and got to the line and did what he does. So, you have good ISO players. That's going to happen sometimes. Sometimes they're going to be better than you because they are extremely talented. But the Zubac thing is what really stood out to me as the fourth quarter wore on and it became more of an issue. So that's what I would say tonight was on the most, to be honest, just towards the end.
Yeah, I liked that comment from Abdul Smith, which we alluded to earlier as well. Kawhi was brilliant. Dude was vintage Kawhi. Sometimes you're gonna get games like that where you play against the best player on the court is on the other team, and if they have a game like that, you might lose. It's okay. But I don't think we have to read into the physicality thing too much at this point. Let's see what happens if this continues. Sure, and if we get to the playoffs and it's a problem, sure. But right now, I'm not reading into that too much. Spence, any final thoughts that you have before we sign? We're over 500 people who are tuning in live. We appreciate you guys staying up late with us, especially on a Tuesday night to do this show.
Wednesday. Technically,
yeah,
Wednesday.
That's true. It's all blurring together at this point.
Couple other thoughts, yeah. So there was a challenge by Kenny Atkinson on a ball that was clearly tipped out by Evan Mobley in the third quarter. That challenge could have been really useful when DeAndre Hunter got called for a foul on James Harden, when Harden went into the lane, missed a layup, and then they called the foul 2 seconds after the fact, waiting to see if the ball goes through. It's a classic referee thing. I think that challenge could have been used in that situation, but he didn't have it in his pocket. So Kenny may be going a little too far on the challenge for a possession ball in the middle of the third quarter or whatever it was. I think that probably was hurtful. And the positive side, I love the Dean Wade, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley trio. I think that is going to be something that we see a lot more of as March goes along. I think that is a very well-balanced lineup that's got plenty of offense and obviously a ton of length and size defensively that can really hurt teams. And one thought, too, that comes to mind, Ty Jerome's getting pretty chirpy. Have you noticed that?
Dude,
over the last couple weeks?
I loved his exchange honestly, like the line to Paolo on Sunday where he was like, "I'd start on your team." That is a legendary line. Like, what do you say to that? What do you say back to that? Like, hey, I'd be a starter on your trash team. Basically, is what he was saying. Like
Crazy.
That's savage.
Hella confidence. Hella confidence.
I mean, I mean, being around him, knowing the locker room and stuff, like we've known that about him since really like the start of the season, start of last season, honestly. Like he's just always kind of been that guy. But like to see it in action like that, it's highly entertaining. Also entertaining, Dan Dispo Kid in the comment section. We have not been putting his comments up, but Dan, I encourage you to go get some sleep and wake up tomorrow morning, hopefully calm down because it's okay. It's okay. It's just one loss, but it feels like you're spiraling, like you think the sky's falling. We're all going to be okay. All right. The sun will come up tomorrow. The Cavs have another game. Hopefully they get a win. They play the Kings. Not quite as late either. It's only 10 o'clock for the tip, not 10:30.
How
so
about
that'll
that?
be a little bit nicer. We'll be having this conversation with you a little bit earlier, and hopefully they can get back on track. But if they don't, Spence, we could be talking about the first of the season 3-game losing streak for this Cavs team, which would be pretty crazy to think about it this late in the year.
It would. But again, this is kind of the March basketball thing, and that's maybe more of a topic for the pod. And I think I've talked to you about that. You're just kind of in that wait and see mode and trying to get to April because you know what you have to prove. Kenny Atkinson, even in his pregame press conference today, talked about how I don't know what else you need to see. I'm paraphrasing, obviously, but like, is there anything that your team has to prove the rest of the way? He's like, not really. Like, like I know what our identity is. I know who we are and how we play as a team. Just kind of get through the grind of the last part of this schedule and then, get to the postseason. Any comments that stick out to you before we get out of here?
Not really. I think we covered a good chunk of them. A lot of it is still about the physicality stuff.
Okay.
And here's a good one. Robbie Miller says, I want Darius to be more aggressive looking for a shot. I think he has shown, I think lately he's been trying to do that. Like he obviously hit that slump, and I think he started to snap out of it a little bit more.
He was brilliant with the passes tonight, though. Oh my gosh. Oh man.
I think he's seeing the floor really well. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. He had some really nice looks tonight. I think Darius, when he gets into ISO mode, which obviously he can break someone down. He had a beautiful one with a little scoop off high glass, getting by Harden, but he has to do it within the flow of the offense, I think. And you'll know when DG has it going. Like he had that step back 3 in the corner in the first half. That was just chef's kiss beautiful. There are other times where you can tell that he's just trying to force it. So it's a delicate balance to find. But I think he's been aggressive. Like you said, it might not have looked great because, you see 7 of 22 on the box score. You don't like it, but you see he takes 22 shots. So like,
yeah,
as long as it's not, quote unquote, hijacking an offense, then I think you're fine. But yeah, I think that when the role players don't make the shots that you're used to seeing them make all season long, it's also going to be this kind of result. And that also kind of plays into it.
I'm just laughing at these comments.
I love how active the comment section is.
Dan Dispo Kid, we finally used one of his 57 games for
first round exit.
That's not going to happen.
I say GTFO, bro?
Come on, man. It's not going to happen.
Come on. You're being maudlin right now.
I will come up with something. I will come up with something just for you, Dan Dispo Kid, on the pod this week. That if the Cavs are a first round exit, I will do some sort of challenge or something.
I was going to say, he's going to get a tattoo for you, Dan.
No, I'm not doing that because I'm not tattooing my body. That would probably lead to me getting divorced, so no thanks. But I'll figure out something and I'll put it on the line because that's not going to happen. I'm here to tell you right now, they're not getting bounced in the first round. So
I mean, look, I'm being critical as I've ever been this season with this game, and I'm seeing some ridiculousness in this comment section.
Dude, you lose 2 games and that'll happen.
Did you see the one they talked about? Like they should have gotten a real big man in there. Like Evan hasn't been like amazing this year, and obviously Jarrett doing what he's been doing all season long and trying to play the full 82. Like that's admirable. Come on, man. Like
man, you lose easy. 2 games and all of a sudden the sky is falling and this team is trash all of a sudden again. So I guess
Cleveland
that's where
Browns
we're at with the Cavs.
Fan base.
I guess that's where we're at with the Cavs. We will be back tomorrow to talk about this more with you. As I alluded to, I'm sure Spence and I will have a podcast episode drop on Thursday after we get through this back-to-back here. Hopefully, we're talking about a Cavs win tomorrow, though. Second out of a back-to-back, so we'll see if Kenny Atkinson's going to rest anybody or what his kind of plan is going to be there, which is why I sort of hinted at the idea that it could be a 3-game losing streak. But let's hope not. Let's have some positive thoughts. Hope for a positive comment section tomorrow. But in the meantime, we encourage you to like, follow, subscribe our channel at the Cleveland Cavaliers and SI YouTube channel. We obviously don't have any post-game stuff for you today because we are not traveling, but you can find other post-game comments, Kenny Atkinson players and more over there, plus our podcast episodes, Courtside with the Cavs and SI, and more post-game conversations like this from all throughout the season. And always, as always, you can head over to si.com/NBA/Cavaliers for any of our written content on the Cavaliers throughout this season as well. For Spencer Davies, I'm Spencer German. Appreciate you guys stopping by and staying up late with us. We'll do it again tomorrow. We'll talk to you again, Cavs fans. Until then, keep on following along with all things Cleveland Cavaliers with the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI.